And
Brother,
welcome everyone
have you
to.
found the way?
Oh, I found a way.
Yeah.
This is Shitlord Preachers, episode 12. I am Amos Joseph, joined by Brook Potter here.
Hello.
How's it going, everyone? For those of you who do not know, the Shitlord Preachers is Brook and myself, who used to be preachers. We've been good friends for, I'd say a few years now. We were in ministry together, and what had happened was we started seeing a lot of changes in religion. And once we kind of moved away from that arena of being ministers, working with people in there, and we kind of moved into politics, we kind of saw the same thing. And both of us enjoying the memes, enjoying shit posting, being shitlords ourselves, as well as former preachers. We're the Shitlord Preachers. I am Amos Joseph here in Minnesota, joined by Brook Potter in the UK.
Yeah.
Today we'll be talking about a few different things. Basically, just the conversations Brook and I have, we like to share with everyone else. We found it can be really good content.
But Amos, what happened to our guest?
Well,
This is the second guest that has flaked on us, bro. Are we offending people? Do we offend?
this is going to become a running gag. I
Deodorant, man.
We were going to have a guest, but we're going to try for next week. So
Right. This is the second guest. I think we're offensive, man. I think, you got to shower more, bro, and it's
yeah,
something, man.
something. But a couple things we'll be talking about. I'm just going to be talking about the State of the Union with Donald Trump,
Right.
about how I think there are a couple things that I didn't quite like
So
about it.
for those who don't know, what is the State of the Union?
So the State of the Union is where the President of the United States gives an address to basically where all three branches of government, so the Supreme Court, the judiciary, the legislative, so both houses of Congress, Senate, and House of Representatives, and the executive being the president, he basically gives an address. It was 2 days ago, and it was about an hour and 20 minutes, I think. The second longest State of the Union on record,
Who
just
has the
behind
first?
Bill Clinton.
Okay, that's good.
So it is, yeah, it's once a year the president gives a State of the Union. Basically, he's stating how everything is going in the union, sort of looking at what has been, what's going on right now, and what the vision is for the future. This was the first official State of the Union. I should, yeah, saying official, but it's the first State of the Union for Donald Trump in his presidency, and it
Nice.
marks just past the 1 year mark since he was inaugurated. Which little do some people like to know. There's all these new loopholes now about how Hillary Clinton could still become president. So I'll be kind of talking
that
on that.
circumvent the Constitution, right?
Well, or some loophole somewhere where they can like push for a recount or nullify the election. And
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, I'd watched the whole thing, and tweeted a bunch of stuff about it that I will be kind of referencing, and I'll kind of be sharing how I think, how I kind of found also that it was quite the gold mine for memes.
Oh, really? Yeah, I did. I saw a lot of memes after. Apparently, a couple people had some priceless expressions during his speech.
Oh yeah, it was
Nancy Pelosi and I think Booker something, or
Cory
I
Booker
don't know. Yeah.
and Joe Kennedy the third, the
Ah,
last
the drooling meme. Yeah, yeah,
ruling, yeah.
yeah.
The most recent Kennedy still in some position of power.
Oh, the last
Um,
Kennedy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I'll be primarily just talking about that. How my thoughts on it. There's a lot of good things, a lot of political plays that Trump made that I think were good. But there are a couple of things where he kind of got a little, he crossed a couple of spots where he was getting a little too, I think, getting a little too excited.
Really?
Well, he talks about nukes in one part. Like,
Really?
we're gonna have the most nukes, and I'm like,
Yeah, it's still kind of an antiquated idea. Mutually assured destruction since the Russians imploded. But maybe he has access to some intelligence that we don't know. Especially with the Iran. Iran basically looks like they're gonna, get their nuclear weapon at the end of this deal. It's gonna create an arms race in the Middle East. So Saudi is not gonna let the Iranians get away with that. There are a lot of new players on the nuclear playing field, at least. And well, we have Rocket Man, Kim Jong-un, out in North Korea. So
I love Rocket Man.
Yeah, it might make sense to kind of do some rhetoric from the Cold War and be like, we will just decimate you with our big weapons,
Right. But no, Brooke was talking about is going to be talking about a few different things. What are you going to be talking about, Brooke?
Oh, nothing interesting. Well, hi guys, my name is Brook Potter. I'm out in the UK, originally from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm not going to do a big introduction because we might be doing a short stream today. But I've got a couple articles, not full ass cancer, but definitely pancreatic, right? And we're going to be looking at some of the new policies out of the Manchester Art Museum in the UK, where they have removed some paintings that apparently is offensive to, the snowflakes. We're also going to be looking at the decision from the Formula One team that they will no longer be using the grid girls. For those who are unfamiliar with that, these are these women that come out sometimes scantily clad, holding the lap number, as well as they're supposed to pose for pictures and basically kind of liven up the festivities. They've been banned and put out of work because of feminisms. And beyond that, I'm going to touch a little bit about the thrashing that's been going on with the Bitcoin. And lastly, I'll be talking about the CALAIS situation. For those who don't know, there's a migrant crisis. Well, as there always is a migrant crisis in Europe. But in the city of CALAIS in France, they've been flooding there because our wonderful leader, Theresa May, has basically given approval to allow asylum seekers. And the minute she said that, suddenly all the migrants want to go to CALAIS because they figure it's the fastest way to the UK. So I'm going to be touching on those points really quick today. But Amos, I want to hear all about our God Emperor Trump and his State of the Union. Like, what did he do good? What did he do bad? Where did he fuck up?
Well, basically, first off, he was pushing the limits of being on the verge of being the longest State of the Union on record, which I thought was pretty interesting. He was off by only a few minutes. So Trump starts off kind of talking about how things have been going. And as you start to, if you actually watch it, listening to it, you won't necessarily see it as much. But as you watch it, you start to see, leading up to this, we talked about last week. Well, not last week, the week before. In our last stream, we talked about how I think 4, maybe 5 congressmen had basically were boycotting the State of the Union, sort of in some form of protest against the president. And there were people, and what had happened is now, following the State of the Union, there were like TV shows, live streams on the internet from celebrities and sort of big social media personalities were basically doing their like, oh, here's our response. Like there was a lot of responses to the State of the Union, which I found to be very interesting. Like it's
really like Hollywood is the heartbeat of the United States. They need to respond politically.
Exactly. Yeah. On Twitter, I was seeing plenty of ads about the BET State of the Union response, which
really black entertainment television is suddenly politically responding to the president.
So
you can't even create this shit,
Trump,
man. This is too funny.
Trump comes in, starts off doing his speech, and he's obviously has his talking style is still very much there. I was actually talking to a friend of ours. Remember the friend of ours that I'm going to go see next week that owns the resort.
Yeah.
Was talking to this person, and they mentioned there was something really interesting because in his campaign, he was always pushing for, I will make America great again. I will do this, I will do that. And he transitioned in his speech, his State of the Union. He started saying, we will do this. We will make America. We will make America. Yep. Okay. We will make America great. We will do this. We will do that. We will just a lot of sort of this, we are the American people. We are pursuing the American dream, things like that. He didn't say those exact words, but he started moving into more of a sort of a gathering of the American people sort of around him. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to make this, and he made some really interesting moves. He was a lot of his talking points was pointed directly at the Democrats, like, hey,
really,
oh yeah. One of the big things was, of course, he passed one of the largest tax cuts in recent history, and which benefited, by the stats, actually benefits 80% of Americans are going to get money back, basically. I mean, wonderful. I'm already starting to benefit on a level with the tax cuts that he passed. My paycheck's already seeing at least a noticeable amount. I mean, over the whole year, you're going to see the difference, but it is a difference. I'm getting less money taken out of my checks.
Right. You're being robbed less.
Exactly. Theft is a little bit less. So Trump is basically recapping on the state of the economy. And he talks about how there's millions of new jobs created, how the Dow Jones has had record highs multiple times.
Yes, I think it's like 17 or something. Yeah.
Talking about how other people have talked about how like ISIS is pretty much on the verge of being completely gone.
Yep.
And he's kind of nudging over to the Democrats and saying, Black unemployment is at an historic low. So it's actually at the lowest that's ever been on record. Hispanic unemployment is the lowest it's ever been in history, according to our records. So he's saying all this, and the way the State of the Union works is pretty much every time he makes a certain point, at the end of that point, he kind of allows a couple minutes for the House, which is mainly the Congress and Senate. The House and Senate, they're actually seated according to party. So you have your independents kind of mixed in the middle. You have your, as he's facing out, to his left is the Republicans, to his right is the Democrats. Right. And as he made the points of unemployment for Hispanics and African Americans are at historic low, all the Republicans are sitting up applauding him, and the Democrats are sitting there just.
Really?
And they're not just like sitting there or giving a slight applause. They're sternly sitting there with
scorning.
Oh yeah, scorning, disdain, disgust, in some cases anger. There were some senators, is it Senator? Yeah. Cory Booker, Nancy Pelosi, and then even just there was sort of a group of more of the African American representatives and such. They're all just sitting there, just
the Black Caucus.
Oh yeah, they're just sitting there, just.
So they're not pleased with the lowest Black unemployment rates?
Well, no, they will not applaud it.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Trump.
Because it's Trump, right?
Oh yeah. I could tell you that during the entire speech, the only time they would ever get up to applaud anything was for something not Trump related. Like if they would stand up. So presidents do this. They'll do these maneuvers or plays, if you want to call, which are they're not like fake. They're not fake news. These are real things that are happening. He would bring in, based upon just tragedies or events or issues that are concerning their administration that they feel is a big point, they'll bring in people related to those. So like he brought in different people from the military that were responding to the hurricanes that we had.
Right.
He was brought in some people, some policemen that were dealing with that have dealt with a lot of the crimes from illegal immigrants.
Right. Good.
He brought in families who lost family members to violence surrounding illegal immigrants from gang violence.
And the Democrats applauded this?
Well, he would bring them in to say, our heart goes out to you. Our condolences are with you. Like, we want to, like, basically saying, like,
right.
this is the face of the issues that he is pushing for.
Right. Okay. And they would applaud for that.
Well, what they would do is, like, we stand with you. People would stand, like, there's like sort of applauding their strength to be here, to show, things like that. And the Republicans right away, strong people, good for you guys. You guys are here. We're here for you, the whole thing. Democrats wouldn't really stand. They were actually slow to stand. They would eventually, but they were just slow to stand.
Right.
Because I swear, it just seemed like they were like, are we with this? Are we not with this? Is the party okay with us applauding for this? Trump is saying it, but it's people. Like, people actually died. We don't want to look that bad.
That's brilliant, though. I mean, I don't know if Trump knew that was going to be the case, but if that actually played, I mean, I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But if that played out, I mean,
they were sitting 95+% of the time.
Oh my God! I mean, the fallout from that must be horrendous.
Oh, they're sitting there, and you even caught the footage of a few times. That a couple of them would be like leaning over to each other on their phones.
Really?
Tweeting. Some of them were tweeting during this.
Wow.
Like,
that's very disrespectful.
And there was a shot. So some of the more viral shots. So there's this shot of Cory Booker. He's basically, he was one of the big outspoken senators against Trump and his shithole countries comment.
Right.
He was like, he sort of puts on this face like, I cannot stand for a president that says these kinds of things. And then they go to a shot with him when all the Republicans are applying about something Trump said, and he's just sitting there like.
That's crazy.
And he's just like sitting there. And so I took that picture of him and I said, when you realize that some of your policies are the sole reason that some parts of this country are complete shitholes. and then there was of course there was a shot where, again, another shot at a Democrat, a very well-known Democrat, Nancy Pelosi, the former Speaker of the House.
Right.
She's sitting there digging through her teeth. I mean, her mouth is closed, but she's doing.
Right. She's cleaning her teeth.
She's cleaning her teeth underneath her, inside her mouth, with a camera on her, while everyone is going through the speech. Just kind of like, sort of this, just absolute disdain and disgust for the president, to the point where they just wouldn't stand for really anything. They had this kid that came in. So Trump brings in this kid, who basically started a movement where he wanted to have the American flag on all military tombstones.
Okay.
Military tombstones always would have like the name of the soldier, obviously. Who were they served, what rank they had, and so it was either like just a stone or it's like a cross, right?
Yeah.
Arlington Cemetery had these different things. Excuse me. And this kid was like, "There's no American flag on these things." People would bring like those little ones, put them on there.
Sure.
He said we should put flags on these. So he writes the departments involved in that and pushes for this. And now they made it into a policy. All military tombstones, all military graves must have a flag. It's a standard. And they were like,
military. They when the casket is out, they put the flag out over the casket. They do all of that. They do the gun salute and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's appropriate.
So Trump is like, hey, you know, good for this kid. We brought him here today, and this kid's like probably 10, maybe 12 years old, just kind of awkwardly like, hey, like he's in the chamber with with all the lawmakers in the country.
That's cool.
And so it was like this cool moment, like, hey, you know, Republicans are standing up, applauding him, and the Democrats kind of sitting. Slowly getting up, kind of applauding. There were a couple interesting shots that I thought were hilarious. They got Bernie Sanders on a couple times. Trump is talking about tax cuts. Trump is talking about people making money. People, you know, he brought in some business owners. So he brought in these small business owners. And one of their employees. So they had this sort of star employee that lost his job during the 2008 crash.
Right.
And basically came under them. He's this, you know, up and coming sort of welder in this company that just had major expansion that the tax cuts are affecting directly. And so they had them stand up like, you know, you're sort of the symbol of this new economic boom that is coming into place.
Right.
And it's funny. The welder was black. The business owners were like ethnically diverse.
Brown.
Yeah. And sort of the showing like, hey, and then they're like, and then now he owns a house. He has 2 daughters. He's now putting money away for their education. Just this sort of American dream being fulfilled picture moment that Trump is presenting. Republicans, obviously, right away, you know.
It's great.
Applauding. But the Democrats are like slow to get up. And then they got a shot. Okay, like you can see in my, this is kind of how it was just Bernie Sanders kind of just always looking, of course, tired. Tirelessly fighting the 1%. And
he's brushed his hair with a balloon.
He's just sitting there like this, very unenthusiastically clapping away that like capitalism works, you know.
Yeah, freedom works.
And which, funny enough, later on they interviewed him as to have some post State of the Union thoughts, and he's sitting there, of course. Just the way that whoever set up this shot of like they go like split screen, you know, they'll go to the different people they're interviewing, and they have him, and he's just like it's too dark over there. He looks tired. He's just and then he's just like, one thing that I do not understand is why the president, he is the first, like, why in the State of the Union that climate change was not talked about. Like, why it is okay for a president to give a first State of the Union without bringing up climate change, which is devastating our country.
Really?
Like,
right.
What?
Where is your country being devastated by climate change? I'm sorry, I forgot that part.
Hurricanes.
Right, hurricanes, which you all have had forever.
It's just like
desert and stuff like that.
And then I even saw Ben Shapiro break down that he was like, he could have seriously just gone down his typical talking points, the 1% and, you know, wealth inequality and all this stuff. Like, he could talk about that, but no, he's got to bring up climate change completely out of, you know, far left field. And I mean, they're doubling down. The left is completely doubling down on the State of the Union just because it's Trump, because he's actually doing some stuff right.
Sure.
Tax cuts are going well. People are making money. Businesses are giving, you know, big corporate America is giving out bonuses and raises to their employees thanks to the tax cuts.
Sure.
There's already been enough of this sort of societal push to get to sort of be more basically be more generous with your employees, take care of them.
Correct.
Once the government lets off, instead of following the narrative that they're just going to hoard more money, put more money in their their offshore bank accounts, they give it back to their employees, which completely goes against this narrative of the left that capitalism is just all about hoarding money at the top.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason they do that, of course, because suddenly they're a lot more profitable, right? So they cut the tax rate from what, 35 to 20? I don't know what the corporate rate was.
The corporate tax was from like 35 or something down to like 20%.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, there's that. There's also,
I mean, that means instantly they have 15% of their money is suddenly revenue. And if you reflect that in your balance sheet for 1 year, that's unsustainable growth because no company is growing at 15%. So it's in their interest to get rid of that money as quick as they can. So that's why.
So, I mean, they give it in, but I guess, it wasn't just, it wasn't just pay raises. Yeah, it's pay raises plus bonuses. So awesome.
And I think like Exxon or one of those big companies said they were going to invest like $50 billion into the United States. I see there's like a conglomerate going on between Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan, Chase, and one of these other Amazon. They're going to be looking into a healthcare investment. I mean, the benefits on that. Yeah, the benefits out of this. And again, this is what people have to understand. It's not like companies just sit on their ass with a big pile of money and smoke it or wipe their ass with it. They need to invest that money. That money has to go to work. So even if they're not putting it in the banks because the banks are paying no interest. So what they're looking for is literally new startup businesses. So every big company has like a venture capital division or a business development division. And it's in their interest because they get to buy up the competition early. They outsource their innovation. So instead of having huge research departments, you could just help the next startup that's done the research and they're trying. And if it's successful, they buy them out and stuff. So there's a lot of trickle. Yeah, I mean, trickle down is not really the word because there's no such thing. But there's a lot of byproduct from giving corporations, some tax cuts and stuff. So
let's
see what happens.
And then he starts mentioning, of course, that some of these big companies are building plants and factories now in the U.S. again.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's saying, now the manufacturing side of the U.S. economy is starting to grow again, which is good. So he's going down through this list of all these good things. Then he's talking about, then here's the big one. He starts talking about immigration policy, of course, the big talking point.
Right.
So he says... So he talks about, sort of this unity, like I'm working with Congress, I'm reaching out to the Democrats. He goes, I'm giving them stuff, I'm compromising with them. He says, at first he didn't want DACA at all.
Right.
He wanted to kick them all out. Well, we know this, though. He said in the past that he pretty much wanted to completely undo DACA. Then the pressure came and he was like, okay, maybe we'll look back at DACA. Let's let Congress vote this in. He goes, I'm going to take it out as an executive order, but let's have the Congress actually make this a law. Then we'll think about it. Then I'll think about maybe making a law.
Right.
But then he turns around now. He says, as a part of the government shutdown, he compromised and said he had like 4 tenets to it. I forgot the exact ones. I know 2 of them were the big ones. He said, I compromised where neither of us got exactly what we wanted, but we had to move forward. He goes, I reached out and I worked with the Democrats, and this is what's going on. So he said, we are going to give, I think he said it's a 12-year citizenship process to 1.8 million illegal immigrants. He said, and he's further on stated, 3 times the number that Obama was pushing for it during his administration.
Right.
He's going over above and beyond what Obama was going to do with DACA.
Right.
He said, I'm giving them citizenship with the trade-off that we still pursue the wall.
Right. Yeah.
Him and the Democrats work this out. And so Republicans get up, applaud that talking point. Democrats still sitting. That is their thing. They wanted, and then here's where he really made a home run. He goes, we really got to take care of because he was also talking about sort of the crime and gang violence that comes out of illegal immigrants. He said, we need to take care of people at home because Americans are dreamers too.
Come on.
And that just, like, everyone's losing their mind. And
it's brilliant.
Because, you know, the Democrats were the dreamers, the dreamers, the dreamers. And he's like, yeah, so are we.
Yeah, it's called the American dream, right? I mean,
yeah.
that's everybody's hope.
That really hit home. And so he's talking about all this stuff. And and then he even threw in a little bit of a nugget. And this is where he really was, like, pushing to them, like, come on, like, stand for something I'm doing. So there's this, I guess there's some rules or there's some laws surrounding terminally ill, life-threatening conditions or patients.
Oh, I heard about this. Yeah,
basically what's going on is patients who are in really they have no other options. They're going to die. They have a condition that can't be cured easily. And Trump is pushing for basically allowing patients to be able to pursue experimental treatments, just basically putting them in a position where all bets are off. They can pursue experimental drugs,
not barely approved.
Right. Just go all out as a last-ditch effort to see, hey, if I'm already going to die, I may as well try something that may or may not work. The upside is I live and I'm cured. The downside is I die, which I'm already going to do. So he says, and Democrats have pushed for this. It's one of their big things that they've been pushing for in the healthcare industry is allow people to try things.
Correct.
And so he says, I'm going to allow that. And then during the speech, he straight up just puts his hands out like, to you, stand up. This is
Did he do that?
Well, he didn't say that, but he's just like, he basically kind of puts his hand like, this is for you. And he puts his hands out like, for all of you. So please stand as I'm going to tell you, like, I'm giving you this. They don't stand.
Wow. He actually said that, like, please stand.
No, he didn't say please stand.
But he just gestured.
His gesture was like, for you, all of you, stand up.
Wow. That is disrespectful, man.
And they just were like, and here's a couple of other cameras caught these. People weren't noticing this. Certain points where Democrats would slowly start to stand, that was sort of like, because that's the group think. Oh, okay, well, this is something kind of touchy, dead people, let's just stand up for that. But there were a couple spots where Democrats who were kind of more moderate, Trump would say something.
West Virginia, I saw, like, he applauded, looked to get up, like, saw nobody else was standing and sat back down. I don't know his name, but
there was something where basically, what's his name? Is it Chuck Schumer?
Right.
Like someone caught Chuck Schumer staring down certain people that were going to stand up to get them to sit back down. I was like, ooh, that's a rough one. So, all these, disrespect, absolute, just did not want to stand for anything he was doing. And then even afterwards, like, of course, the backlash. There was they had Joe Kennedy III. So he's a House of Representative. He's a rep from Massachusetts.
Yeah,
he is the grandnephew of JFK. So that's how he's related. He basically was speaking, gave like a small press conference, sort of like, this is the official Democratic response to the State of the Union. I didn't hear exactly what he said, but the big thing that came out of it was, I'm sorry. I didn't listen. I didn't watch it. But the big
interested.
I wasn't. What are they really going to say? None of us stood up for the president because of party first over people. Like,
because my diversity. And
exactly. But here's what's funny. For a party that is so for diversity and against white privilege, he is the most white privileged male you could find in the party.
I mean, he's practically royalty, right? I mean, the Kennedys are like basically the American equivalent of royalty.
Right, and he's just standing.
I mean,
Anyway, so
yeah.
he's talking, and the big thing that they caught was, I guess, there was a shot where he was like drooling in the corners of his mouth.
Yeah.
You could see, like you could just see there was something.
Just moist. It
was
moist.
And so here I am.
Is he like choking on a dick or something? Like, what's going on?
No, people were like, people were saying he was eating Tide Pods or some shit. So there was a meme of a crudely drawn picture of him that said, "Do not ask what your drool can do for you. Ask what your drool can do for your country." I took the picture of him drooling, and I said, "That moment when you're thinking about taxing the wealthy at 100%." And of course, there was all these responses that came up. People were saying like Trump was using some very what they believe to be some very nostalgic sort of words like family and America, like the ACLU straight up. Yeah, the ACLU came out and said, we are concerned because Donald Trump used the word America 80 times in his speech. The ACLU in their name is American.
Oh my, these people are out of the goddamn minds. And I mean, it is the state of the United States of America. Why would he not use the word America?
And then there was a tweet that was like America, God, family, like these are words like, and then someone made a tweet basically like bashing him, like he's using sort of terms that the conservatives are really liking that kind of refer back to the 1950s America, sort of this booming conservative American paradise.
Right.
And it's like, really? Like, I thought like Democrats' talking points when they talk about taxation is the 1950s.
Right.
Oh, it was a booming economy. We were taxing the top tax bracket at 91%.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
But then he hears Trump talking about this 1950s America. Oh, yeah, we're not talking about that. We don't like that. You know, all conservatives just cream in their pants over 1950s America.
Oh my goodness, that sounds absolutely ridiculous. What about the BET response? I would have loved to hear.
Oh, I'm not gonna watch that, cancer.
You know, but I mean, I used to watch. I mean, back when I gave a shit about politics, I used to watch. Yeah, so they're like, okay, when Obama did his, the Republicans would do a response from usually a state house. It kind of looks a little presidential, you know, in a lesser fashion, and they would respond, you know, on point. But I would have loved to hear what the Democrats said in response to them not standing and all this other nonsense. I mean, you know, it's just unfathomable. I mean, but I mean, in conversations with people, have you spoken to people and heard, okay, well, this is what they think. This is, you know, whatever. Like, you know, how have people taken the State of the Union and the response from the Democrats?
Well, the big things that I've heard is a lot of polls that went out basically have stated that a lot of people liked it.
Right.
I think they said like among more right-leaning Republican audiences, like it was a 90+% approval rating for it. Among the more independent, more center-leaning audiences, it was like a 70% approval. And even among Democratic left-leaning individuals, it was like a 45% approval.
So terrible. That's not bad.
So that's like a lot.
Yeah, for the left, yeah.
Even I saw on Twitter, HuffPo put out a poll, you know, a little Twitter poll. Yeah. Basically, they had 4 increments, sort of like love it, okay, don't like it, hate it, kind of thing. 90% loved it.
Go figure.
From HuffPo.
Go figure.
So,
and what did you think? I mean, what was your personal view?
Well, here's the thing I didn't like about it. There was a couple parts. He talked about, for example, nuclear stuff. So he
Right.
talked a lot about like we're going to, dealing with the nuclear issue with, let's say, North Korea. He said he goes, we're going to build up our nuclear arsenal. I'm like, what? Why?
Right.
Like, why are we doing this? And he's like, we're going to build up our nuclear arsenal as a bigger deterrent so we can put more pressure on countries like North Korea to basically keep them in check. And it's like, do we really want to, though? Like, we have thousands already. We're going to make thousands more. Like, what's the point?
I mean, it could be politics at play. He might just be saying that to inveigle, North Korea, but not actually do anything.
Yeah, maybe it's as a play.
Yeah,
so he's saying all that, but then he kind of wraps it up at the other end and says, as much as he's like, is that how I would like to do it in a day and age like today? No, he goes, we obviously want to, we're looking forward to. He talks about looking forward to a day, to an era where nuclear weapons are not needed.
Right.
So he kind of talks about the future sort of peace where we won't need nuclear deterrents. But just the fact that even he had to throw that in there, I was like, come on, man. Really?
Yeah, it's kind of Reagan-esque. I don't know if you may not have known this, but in the heights of the Cold War, Reagan announced the Star Wars program.
Oh no, I know all about the Star Wars.
yeah, exactly. He announced that. And it was
SDI, space lasers.
Space lasers. It was, I mean, this was the initiative. And a lot of people believed that it was his announcement, because none of that got built. But it was that announcement that actually kind of basically put the Russians on on their heels.
People believe
we can't compete.
They think SDI. Some people, some conservatives, more hardcore, tend to believe SDI was the sole reason that the Soviet Union collapsed.
I don't think it was the sole reason. It was definitely a tipping point.
Right.
Brought down, but I guess a lot of our listeners would know about the Berlin Wall and Checkpoint Charlie and stuff like that.
Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah, Thatcher was a role in that. But yeah, the Iron Curtain literally split Europe in half, and East and West were there, and the Eastern Bloc was the communist bloc, and you had to go through the Berlin Wall, and there was Checkpoint Charlie to go from the west to the east. Now, we don't know anything about that. The Berlin Wall is gone. Actually, I have a chip of it somewhere. Somebody actually brought me a piece of it. They're selling bits of it in a charity and like a tourist shop. But yeah, that kind of rhetoric to a regime like North Korea might be a little bit Reagan-esque. That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
I mean, it's North Korea, man. I mean, somebody might trip and just unplug the entire country, right? It's not like...
he also brought...
the refugee guy, the Asian.
Yes. Ji Sung-ho, he is the North Korean defector that basically got almost died coming here. Getting to South Korea, he almost died. The guy, for those of you who probably remember, the guy who basically just was booking it in a vehicle going across the DMZ to get there to South Korea. And I guess he was just living it up as soon as he had all that freedom. Basically, he just was. I think they found him. He was almost dead. They got him to a hospital. I guess he was full of parasites, just from how unhealthy and how malnourished everything was. Just his body was just infested with diseases and parasites. And he's a lot better now. But he brought his crutches with him.
Really?
Because I guess I think he lost a leg or something, but he stood up and raised his crutches.
Wow.
Sort of, and that was a big moment. A lot of people think that was a big highlight of the State of the Union. Sort of Trump is really sort of sticking it to North Korea, sticking it to communism, socialism, the whole
amazing
authoritarian idea. Just this is my man. To sort of stick it to, authoritarianism as a whole. As much as SJWs want to say Trump is an authoritarian.
They have no idea. I mean, if you hear the horror stories of people who've escaped North Korea, I mean, some have gone the route of China, and it has not, especially the women that have, tried to escape to get to Hong Kong through China. I mean, it's absolute depravity. They end up as sex workers and sex slaves and, genital mutilation. I mean, just every worst part of human degradation you could think of. And you could just imagine, that these people are risking it all for freedom, right? I mean, you don't see there's one American defector who went to North Korea. Like, in the history of the North Korean regime, there is actually an American who went, like, literally went there and got citizenship and lives in North Korea. But on the grand scale, the amount of people trying to escape that regime and any of those regimes, I mean, it's a real testament, to the human spirit and the desire for freedom. So that's really impressive. If he got that guy out there, that says a lot.
He also had Otto Warmbier, the American that was the American college student that was caught there. Remember that?
Oh, right, yeah. He was something tourism or something, and they arrested him as a spy or something.
Well, they arrested him because he did something stupid. He was just a kid. I mean, he was just a college kid, and Trump brought his family to the State of the Union. He kind of talked about them, sort of like, we're here with you. Because what was the big response from the left? His white privilege. He wasn't supposed to be there. He's an idiot. He's just some dumb white privileged, straight white male that went into into North Korea, and he deserves it, kind of thing.
Right.
That was a big thing. And then now here's the family, like, we're with you. Everything that happened was never supposed to happen. And we're sorry that things are the way they were. We couldn't do much, and I mean, the kid's dead now. It's just like,
yeah.
And then they kind of show and then that's where he kind of led into the North Korean defector guy, and it's just like, jeez.
No, it's absolutely
the Democrats.
Heartbroken. Yeah, the Democrats. They've dropped the plot, man. Since the election of Donald Trump, they've really lost the plot. I mean, I remember just after the election, well, there were two things. Like, I always listen to what they call the Harvard Review. So there's, after any election, the campaigns of the opposing teams get together for basically like a 10-hour debrief. And I think it's at Harvard, maybe it's at the University of Virginia, one of these very big political science things. And they do it for posterity. They do it kind of on the record. This is what we saw. This is what we thought. And the Democratic campaign leader, they had no clue what the American people were really going through. And there's this great moment when I can't remember the campaign leader, the woman that was running with Trump. I can't remember her name right now. She basically said, you got it all wrong. You put up Hillary Clinton, which shows that you really don't know what is going on. What about the fact that nobody likes her? Nobody connects with her. You can't push her off as like an everyday person when she's a dynasty. The Clintons are a dynasty. I mean, you put the most unelectable candidate up. Maybe that's why you lost, right? And they just couldn't get it. It was all the Russians and, all this other nonsense. And then later on, there was like, I think the campaign, the leader of the Democratic National Committee, it was Wasserman Schultz, I think. She eventually had to resign because of, it came out that she was kind of rigging the system and in favor of Hillary Clinton and all this other kinds of stuff. And then they had that terrible video where this doing the Democratic National Convention, and they got some new leader. I don't even know who it is. And she comes out and she basically makes these statements against white people, basically saying her job is to shut white people down and, all this other kind of nonsense and stuff. And I'm just saying, if this is the narrative that the Democratic Party is going to do, this extreme social justice, Marxist kind of thinking, oppression Olympics sort of thing, they're going to be out for a generation, right? I mean, it's nobody, while that might be a loud voice, especially in the media and elsewhere, it is not the mainstream voice by a long shot.
Oh, yeah. And the absolute disconnect with reality that they're pushing for. Like, I'm just thinking about this in the longer, bigger picture here. Like growing up, like you hear about, Hollywood is pushing a leftist idea. Like we already knew Hollywood was sort of like leftist, kind of in league with the government. Just it was sort of on the verge of conspiracy theory esque kind of thing, and we didn't really care. We're like, whatever. Like they're
Yeah,
doing their thing,
exactly.
and things just kind of kept going along. And as soon as you have this Donald Trump guy get elected, it all just they're all out of the closet. They're all it's
Yeah.
out there now. I mean, they're doubling down on everything. They're doubling down that. I don't know if you heard like the Grammys.
No,
Was it the
I didn't see the
was it the
Grammys.
It was some award thing. It was probably the Grammys where like there was some clip, like they started the thing, the award ceremony, with a clip of. So it starts off as just sort of a white background, sort of in a person. There's someone that's reading Fire and Fury.
Right. The elucid Trump expose.
So it's this person reading, basically covering their face, and then as they come down, it's Hillary Clinton.
Oh, for fuck's sake, man.
This is the Grammys. And then they said it became literally just a 2-hour long special of everyone bitching about Trump.
Really? That's pretty shit, man. I mean, if that's where they're at, and if Hillary Clinton is showing up at the Grammy, I mean, that's a new low.
I'm wondering, like, are you guys just like showing us your secret leftist meetings right now? Like, just like, hey, here's our big old leftist circle jerk about how, she's kind of still our president, like, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what's going on. And again, the left wing bubble is just totally, totally out of control. And it's unfortunate they do control media and these big echelons in the news and stuff like that. But it's just hysteria. The Trump derangement syndrome. I think I saw one video clip of a bunch of people watching the State of the Union, and they were like in a group watching it on projector, and everybody started throwing bottles and shoes and.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, like I don't remember seeing that for Obama, right? I don't know what's I don't know what the lesson
throwing
that
shoes,
is.
and then I saw someone post that, and they were like, "Shoe throwing is not an argument."
But it's not. It's not. I mean, it's really people just throwing a hissy fit, right? And there is no argument. There's no argument. All right, you may not like Trump. You could say you hate the guy, whatever. Okay, fine. That's not an argument. That's not a policy. That's not something that you could point to and say, well, this is what he's doing wrong. So I mean, I just don't listen to these people. These people are just noise. And I think, at least I hope, that the vast majority of the Americans actually feel the same way, that these people are totally out of touch. They don't understand what it's like to have just wanting to have your family and raise your kids right, and do your job, and all this other kinds of stuff, and save for retirement and whatever. These people have no idea what any of that's like. And it's just showing more and more. It's just coming out, and I mean, unfortunately, it's coming out in segregation and racism, and on the left. Yeah, it's exactly. It's like one of the clips that I saw about, I think it was the Grammys. I might be wrong. The opening announcer is this white comedian guy. He's from the UK, I think. I can't remember his name. Kind of chunky guy, kind of heavy.
James Corden.
It might be. I don't actually follow his work. I don't find he's particularly very talented, but okay. But yeah, he I think he opened the thing saying, well, this is the most diverse Grammys or some shit like that. And then he apologized for being the one white guy or whatever it was like that.
Oh yeah, that's James Corden. Yep.
Yeah, it's like, well, fuck you then. I'm not interested in your diversity, quota. I want to hear the best music. I don't really care where the music comes from, right? And I mean, once upon a time, that was the liberal position. It's like nobody gave a shit about your race or anything like that, as long as you were talented or whatever. It always transcended your race and your gender and this other stuff. But we seem to have come full circle on this thing. The shoehorn, is it the horseshoe theory? And now the left is totally regressive. We've gone back to segregation and racism, and it's just nonsense.
Enough about Trump. So, because we could talk about this, I think, for the next 3 to 7 years.
Well, we're going to, right? I think we probably will end up talking about this for the next possibly 3 to 7 years. It's interesting. That's pretty messed up.
unless they find another reason that Hillary Clinton didn't win the presidency.
I mean, I think she actually had an exploratory committee. I know Bernie Sanders is exploring running in 2020. Oh,
No, but I mean, am I still going to hear about how Hillary could have won the election a year from today?
I mean, you see it all the time. The people bitching about the Electoral College, right? Some asswhip came out. Some I think it was Stephen King. Yeah, Stephen King basically came out and basically, one of these "not my president" memes, and basically said that, well, Trump lost the election by 3 million votes and stuff like that. Not my president or whatever. And it's like, well, obviously you don't understand how the electoral system works.
Well, see,
it's there to protect. Yeah, exactly.
You don't know, Brooke, because we're the only country in the world that uses the electoral college system. And you know how the electoral college was created, right? With slavery. Brooke and I have some left-leaning friends that had a discussion regarding the electoral college, and I guess the topic of slavery came up. Somehow slavery was the reason the electoral college is a thing, which makes no sense. The electoral college was created solely for the reason popular votes can actually be skewed, because if a popular vote was the sole metric for an election, I could just go to all the coastal cities. I don't have to go to the Midwest. I don't have to go to freaking, I don't have to come to Minnesota or Wisconsin to do any campaigning. I just got to go to all the coasts, all the major cities, and I'm done.
Yeah, because those are the major population centers in the United States, plus Texas.
And the thing about a republic, which is what we are, not necessarily just a democracy, is the minority has inalienable rights and a voice that cannot be silenced.
Correct.
You can still be a minority, but you're not going to be silenced. And we protect the minority through our system. The Electoral College protects the minority, essentially.
Correct. It's as you say, it's designed. Well, I mean, yeah, the campaigning thing is interesting. It's because no, I don't think any president actually goes to every state, right? They do pick and choose.
But they try to but they at least hit the small population centers too.
Yeah, they do go to like Minnesota. They go to like these other centers, Texas and stuff like that. But it's exactly what you say. Otherwise, because the largest population base in the U.S. is in the state of California. Am I right?
I think so.
Yeah. So I think between New York, California, well, like you say, the coast, right? So down the East Coast, West Coast, and possibly Texas, those are the big population centers. And as I say, those tend to be very left-leaning, except for Texas. Left-leaning demographics. They tend to have a lot of immigrant minority populations. There's all types of demographics in those areas and stuff like that. That don't necessarily reflect more of the Midwest, some of the farming states, the Idahos, Iowas, these kinds of places, Montana, the Outback and stuff like that. So yeah, in order to kind of divvy it up, the electoral college is supposed to do that. It's a little flawed though, because every state starts with 3 electoral college votes. So even if no matter how big or how small you are, they all start with 3, and then they add and subtract. If it was like a actual representation, some states would still get more and some should have less. I think like Rhode Island has 3 when it really should have 2, and other stuff like that. But I mean, it's
right.
It's still, yeah, it's still a very good system. Well, it's still a decent system.
Well, look at this here. So I just looked up 50% of the population.
Yeah.
Of the U.S. population can be in just 9 states.
Right. There you go. Out of 50.
Mm-hmm. California, Texas, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Georgia, and Florida.
That would be
Those
it.
9 states have half of the population. So if
Yeah.
I were a smart person in a popular election, I would probably go to no more than 20 states, 9 of which would be those.
Correct. I'm sure those states all get visits from presidential candidates.
Oh yeah, I mean, but you would just go to all the main ones, dump the most money into there,
Yeah.
and really just, I mean, it gives you an edge that is unfair to essentially the minorities of. I mean, Minnesota is not in there, so here's almost 6 million voters, 6 million people.
Yeah.
That you can just skip over. Now, is that necessarily fair?
No, not really.
And you could say even the majority of these huge population centers could have some very left leaning. You know, cities tend to be somewhat left leaning, depending on the city. So then now you have a political advantage too, not just a population advantage. And so the Electoral College is to mediate that to the best that it can. Is it perfect? Obviously not.
I mean, it's not actually that different from the UK parliamentary system. So, in a very similar way, we have, we don't have states, but we have districts or counties, and each county will vote for their representative, and we get one member of parliament, and then the biggest group in the member of parliament then appoints the leader of the prime minister, basically. By way of having the most seats in the parliament. So that is in a way a type of electoral college where, it's not just about the mass of votes, that elects the PM. You have to have representation, and they elect you into office, sort of thing. So the voting system in the US votes for the delegates. The delegates then go to the electoral college and they vote for the president that is elected, and basically we do similar thing out here in the UK. So it's interesting that people think that it's no other country. I think a lot of countries have systems in place to kind of prevent total mob rule from like the major cities and stuff like that.
Which is the biggest issue with a direct democracy is mob rule.
Yeah. I mean, there's some advantages to that in terms of like the Swiss model. Is it Swiss? Switzerland, yeah. So like, yeah, they are allowed to enact constitutional reformations on a very regular basis to dictate what they want done and what they don't want done. So like, oh, bless you, man. Yeah. So for instance, like last year there was an excess of taxes, and I think they collected a surplus of revenue, and the state was like, well, we're just going to keep this. So this year there's a referendum by the people to basically say, well, no, if the state actually collects more money than it's supposed to, it has to go back to the people. And there's like a nationwide vote on the issue. And if that passes, that becomes part of the Constitution. Very interesting. I mean, it's a downfall as well, right? So, I mean, people think I'm anti-Muslim and all this other stuff. I'm very much free religion expression. But so like in Switzerland, they've banned by constitutional amendment many things like the burqa, the minarets, the call to prayer in these Muslim areas. I don't necessarily think that's a good thing, but I mean that's how their direct democracy works. So it's good and bad. Yeah.
So, oh wait, we already went. We're already at an hour.
We're at an hour. Dang, man, I didn't even get to touch my stuff.
You got to get to your thing, or is that?
Yeah, I do actually. I do appreciate kind of cutting it short. So, what we'll do is probably just put the article links below if anybody wants to see the articles, and I could probably do a quick recap next week. But yeah, no, I think the State of the Union was definitely worth the hour. It's a pretty serious event worldwide. And the fallout from that, yeah, it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the year, and I think it's important that we talked about that.
Right. All right, guys. Well, yeah, thanks for joining us today. Sorry it's a little bit short. We all got some stuff going on, and we had a guest that ditched on us. So
I know. Oh, this is like the second guest that's bailed, man. Like, we got to get deodorant or something, man.
Yeah, we got to get some. Maybe we just need to like randomly just say, "Hey, buddy, you want to join us in a Google Hangout call?" And then just pull them into. Yep, you're live.
Maybe, yeah. So you're saying we should trick them?
Yeah, just trick people. Exactly.
What happened to our first guest? I can't
Our
remember
first
his name.
guest is having. Don't know about that one. Second
Okay,
guest is just stuff came up. Busy.
sure.
Definitely
Work.
still interested though. So.
Yeah. And
Um,
again, I also apologize because I'm actually running off to a conference. I have to get dressed. I have to get ready. And I'm using the public transport. So, I got to give myself some time, which is why today's stream is a little shorter than normal. But hopefully next week we'll be back on schedule.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. Once again, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel as well as Brooke's channel. Join us next week. Follow us on Twitter if you want to have any conversations on the things we've been talking about, or just watch the memes I post.
And let us know your thoughts on the State of the Union. If you saw it, put those comments below. It'll be interesting to have the discussion.
Sounds good. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks for watching.
Take care, guys.